Oh my! What do you guys think of the new thumbnail?
I love it.
I do too.
Tom Cruise. He keeps showing everybody how to do it.
Yeah, but the sexy one on the thumbnail is Kamran Pasha.
Of course. I'm talking from a business point of view.
That's just what I think. Oh, hey, we're live. I guess I'll go ahead and play our opening.
It's time for a little Funky Friday. From their funky hidden headquarters, your hosts, Keith and Gerry. Not Gerry.
Hey guys, the black guy and the cracker are here to talk with none other than Kamran Pasha, who is live from California.
With a lot of bright sunlight, I'm sort of silhouetted. I'm like a James Bond villain. You can't see my face. I don't know this. I want a nice background, but you know what? Forget the background.
No.
Look at that side lighting on you. Look at that.
Oh, it's very angelic.
What you needed was a voice distortioner.
Yeah, I know, right?
Hello.
Deep throat.
Right.
That would be
But
fun.
anyway, Kamran, welcome back to the show. We haven't seen you in a while. It's good to see you. How are you doing?
It's been a while. Happy New Year. It's been at least a few months since I've been on this wonderful channel.
Yes. By the way, I do have one beautiful girl on the show. My girlfriend down below, Anna Confisa, is here. She's been excited about meeting you. She's like,
well, I'm delighted, and I get to see your lovely face. So I've always teased these guys because it's always a schlong fest on this channel, right? It really is.
I am the only girl
with all
who
the
can
sausage.
tolerate this sausage fest. I'm the only one. I grew up with 5 brothers.
So now your accent is
like, I'm done.
Is your accent Austrian or German? What's the origin?
Austrian.
I got Austrian. I was
the first thing Gerry said to me was like, "Are you German?" And I was immediately insulted. That's how we met.
Are you Indian? Come on, let's get serious here. Whatever. So yeah,
you'll like this one. She's from Vienna. I said, Vienna, the Bavaria of Austria.
Oh man,
no.
you're the charmer. You just know how to say. You just know the right things to say, man. Well, I've only very briefly been to. It was about a year ago. I was on a flight and I had a 12-hour layover in Vienna. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to sit around in the airport for 12 hours. I'm going to go out and see Vienna. And
I mean, it's a 20-minute train connection to the old town.
Exactly. So, we just get out. I was out in the city very quickly, and it's one of the most beautiful cities I've ever seen in my life. It's up there with Paris. I mean, it's remarkable. It's like a beautiful city in terms of architecture.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, and I found a wonderful Indian restaurant. I always find the best Indian restaurants. There's just one of the best Indian restaurants I've ever had happens to be in Vienna. So,
nice.
You have Hindi radar, do you?
Urdu. You got to get the language right. See,
Urdu, right? Okay. So it's great to have you back.
Keith is used to. Keith is always there. Why am I not seeing your lovely face, Keith? Because you usually, as this guy makes guffaws, I love your reactions as he's always saying the wrong things. Your look of extreme frustration and embarrassment, and I want to see that again.
Look at all that gray that's on him.
Look at all the gray.
He's aging.
Yeah. Hey, it's okay. I like Santa Keith. I like it, man. I like it.
Santa Keith.
Cameron, if you had to deal with Gerry all this time, of course you'd go Gerry.
I don't know if you remember, John. Do you remember, John? Because John has lost 100 pounds.
Oh, more than that.
Oh, God bless. Incredible. Good for you.
He did an amazing job. Now he really looks like Michael Douglas from Falling Down.
Well, you do have a Michael Douglas. But first of all, congratulations. It's really important to take care of your health. 100 pounds is not easy. I've been trying to get rid of these last stubborn 20 pounds forever. And it's always like, 2 pounds down, 3 pounds back up. But I'm proud of you for doing it. It's a big deal and it'll help your heart. It's good for you.
Absolutely.
Actually, it's 150, but who's counting?
I found a lot of it. I have found a lot
50 of it because I gained 50 over the holidays. So, but look, man, there's so much going on in Hollywood right now. And you saw what I put on the thumbnail is, are we seeing the great Hollywood reset? Is it happening?
Well, I think we're definitely seeing a Disney reset, which I think will have implications for everybody else. In some ways, Disney is the lagger of all of this. I think we've been seeing a Hollywood reset for quite some time, and Disney has been structurally the slowest to move, even if it has wanted to move. And I think we're finally beginning to see the fruition of that movement.
I'm hoping so. It's good to see, because we're seeing a lot more. Because, like, I don't know if you watched Reacher, but season 2, we've been hearing negative criticism about it. But I'm like, it's better written than season 1.
Mm-hmm.
It is structurally better written than season 1. Better story arc, better character arcs. It was really well done.
Well, Reacher is one of the big hidden, things that people, the screenwriters, professional screenwriters love. They don't want to admit it, but they actually love it. And so, right now he's developing a project with a friend, and he's like, well, I don't know if I want to pitch it this way, but it's kind of like Reacher in the Middle East. I was like, yeah, because that's exactly what it is. But he's like, I love that show, but I can't tell anybody. I was like, everyone says that to me, so you might as well just tell everybody because everyone's saying that. Man,
yeah. So what is your pulse right now on everything? Because I know you hang out with our friend Doomcock too. And
and I love him. He's a good friend of mine. We often have different perspectives, but we always remain friendly and share.
Yeah, so do we. We love you no matter what. We love you. It's like Keith and I absolutely love the hell out of you, Cameron.
Well, that's why I love this channel. Is I feel safe here. You can have a different point of view with me, but it doesn't become personal, which is how it should be.
We never attack our friends ever, and we defend them to the hilt. And with you in particular, we stand by the fact that you are an honest, truthful person, and anybody that thinks otherwise doesn't understand you at all.
You're an educator, is what you are.
A man of integrity.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, it means a lot to me. I hope I can live up to that moniker. I try to be. Look, I mean, we're all human. We have our faults. We have our egos. Anyone's been following my Patreon, I'd say 95% of it, I try to be like an objective analyst. And every now and then I get swept away in the emotion of events and get into dumb arguments. And then I feel embarrassed because I don't want to be that person. I want to try to have opinions while being a mature adult. But, we're fans as well, and we invest deeply in it. But definitely, whatever I'm telling you is what I believe to be true. It doesn't mean it is true. It just means what I believe at the moment, based on the information I have and based on my life experience. Other information comes, other experiences come, that'll change. But I'm always trying to share what I believe to be the truth in the information I have at the moment.
Absolutely, and it's one of the things that I admire about you. And I don't know if you got to look at it, but I sent you 3 chapters from my graphic novel.
I have. I pulled them up. I just started looking at them. They look incredible. So tell me about this. What's the origin of all this? What have you been doing?
Well, Script Doctor, Script. He's my senior editor on this project.
Right.
And this is something that Mike Barron and Chuck Dixon raved about. They wrote really nice reviews. In fact, Mike Barron is writing the introduction to the book. This is something I started 10 years ago, and I put it on the back burner because I had so much shit going on. And I'm finally at a point in my life where I'm ready to go tackle this thing. And I'm going at it with a vengeance. And the campaign's it's the holidays. So it kind of slowed. But I talked to Ethan Van Sciver today, and hopefully we're going to see a little bit of movement. Now, have you met Ethan?
I've not met him. It's funny because I actually went on. I rarely go on and do super chats on people's channels, but I went on his channels yesterday because poor guy's been on. I've been through it, been under attack, and a lot of false representations. He's going through it. But anyone, I'm not even big, and people did it to me, and he is very big, right? So I went in there to give him some support, and I gave a super chat which he laughed and enjoyed reading and gave his analysis of, but it caused a lot of flurry in the comments because I said, I support you in all this, and by the way, I also agreed with you on Barbie because he and I had the controversial view that Barbie's a very good movie that people misunderstood, at least some of the fans did, and that it was a critique of feminism and not an embrace.
I actually believe it's a good film. I just haven't seen it because it's not a subject that interests me. So I end up not watching a lot of movies.
Because it is, in my opinion, and we don't have to talk much about Barbie, but it was also, I said this, people attacked me, said you're crazy, and then Ethan Van Sciver put it out, and people were shocked because he is, in the eyes of a lot of fans, he's got more mojo than I do, right? He's a very well-known, and in certain political arena, he's very well-known.
That dude is something else, he puts his money where his mouth is, which is what I really deeply, and I've known him for a long time. I met Ethan way back when I was working for IDW full time, and we became very chummy. But it was so funny this week. I was interviewed by Luke over at fundmycomics.com, and I pointed out, I said, yeah, I email him the last couple of years and I get no response from him anymore. And he goes, oh, nobody gets a response from him by email. You got to, and he told me today, just send him a message on Twitter. I went, we're not friends. He doesn't follow me. And he goes, just send him. And I went and I'm like, holy shit, we talked for the first time in years today. Had a great conversation.
Well, everyone finds the medium that they can communicate in. I still do emails, but at a certain point, emails get overwhelming, and maybe you just want to keep them to professional things, right? So everyone finds their medium. A lot of people reach out to me to Instagram who don't have my personal email address, or obviously through my Patreon. And so, yeah, everyone finds their way to communicate. It's getting more complicated, so you want to streamline it at this point.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, we've got a lot of people in the chat today. We want to. Yeah. Let's see.
We got a lot going on. And I have a feeling I could be proven wrong in an hour and a half, and that's fine. I have a feeling there may be news today, just because Fridays are the days where news tends to get announced, right? Especially news that's
drop some news.
Well, I know I will share information I have, but I'm to official news as in PR releases, because especially if PR releases are about anybody being let go or anything that might shake up the investors a little bit, because because investors' automatic reaction to any kind of change.
I've heard rumblings about Kennedy today.
Well, we'll see. All I can say is I wouldn't be surprised if some kind of news comes out today, because Friday tends to be the day where you release it, gives the market 2 days to process and analyze. Because even if you announce, just in a hypothetical, you announce, the head of Warner Brothers is resigning, in the middle of the week, people are going to immediately sell the stock, even if they've been critical of that person. They just don't like change. But if they've had 2 days to process, well, is that person's departure good? Then they may not cause a sell-off. That's why you do major things on Fridays. We'll see. Maybe nothing's going to happen today, but
that's why you fire people on Fridays too.
Correct. You tend to, because again, especially if the person is in any way popular or popular in the media, even not popular in the general public, but popular amongst the media. You don't want the media doing hit pieces for you for going after them. So you want to give it
exactly
on a Friday when
2 day buffer. Yep.
Yeah. So maybe nothing will happen. Maybe there'll be breaking news while we're talking, and we'll go with it.
Oh, it'll be fun. Keith, I expect you to keep. My God, I thought I went gray quickly, Keith. You're getting, and you're handsome with it. I'm telling you, it doesn't look good on me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Look,
I'm going to be straight about dignified black men always look good in everything, man. It's the way it works, So
this
Gerry
last
needs
year
to dye his beard so it's visible.
I have to dye my beard so you can even see it. It just looks like more white on my white.
Yeah, white people. So, Kevin, you were saying, I'm interrupting you.
No, I was just going to say this last year, as you know, has not been the best for me personally. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of that is just,
If you didn't know Cameron, he lost his mother this year, or in 2023. It was rough.
That is big. I take care of my mother. If you'll probably see her walking in the background, my father passed 10 years ago. And since then she's been staying with me. And so I understand. I'm very connected to her. So my heart goes out to you.
Well, thank you. It's been rough and I'm making it, adjusting, I should say. But I have to say, in keeping up with all of the news with yourself and others, that's really helped. So I want to thank you for that. And in case I never said that officially out loud, also to everyone on this show, thank you for your continued friendship and support. But what's one thing that happened last year that truly surprised you is a question that I would ask you, Cameron. Because you're so connected to what's out there. Is there anything that genuinely surprised you?
Caught you off guard. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Sure. Well, I think that the events that started happening after Star Wars Celebration caught me off guard, but they shouldn't have, right? It's and this caused a lot of controversy for me, because I had received from my sources that Bob Iger, and I still believe my sources, that they were being told what they were told at the time accurately, that in January, February, Bob Iger was threatening Kathleen Kennedy. Look, I just want you to just step down, finish off Indiana Jones, step down. Why don't we make Star Wars Celebration a great hurrah for you, right? We'll do all this press for you and make it so that when you eventually announce this summer you're out after Indiana Jones, we'll have given you a nice farewell. And at the time, my people were like, that's what Iger's pressuring. She doesn't want to do it. And she's going to try to find a way around it. I was like, well, I mean, how much can you go, if you're winding down, you're winding down. And then we saw a slew of things happen at Celebration that shocked people, caused people to attack my credibility. Said, well, you said she was going to, I never said she was going to step down, but said she was going to get a Viking funeral. And instead she announced all of these new films and projects, right? So that startled
Which we call bullshit on.
Yeah. Which you did call bullshit. You were one of the very few. Everyone else was swept away with. You analyzed and said, are these projects probable? Doesn't sound like it, which is what I said, right? But and you were one of the very few channels that had the courage to say, I don't know, can we slow down a second? Is there a Rey movie? Is this really happening? Is the Acolyte really happening? You asked those questions. Other people didn't even want to ask those questions. And they said, well, Cameron is an idiot for even, suggesting that might not be real. So what has happened in the last 8 months or so, since then, 9 months, has been, there was a lot more propaganda, in my opinion. I call it propaganda, so from the Kennedy Lucasfilm camp to promote these non-existent projects. And all the way up till last week. It culminated last week, and then the bubble just popped this week. The whole thing collapsed. It just collapsed, and I knew that day would come. That the emptiness of these fake announcements would one day be revealed. I didn't expect them to all happen within the first few days of January, at the height of the frenzy, where Jon Favreau decided to pop it all by announcing certain new things that eliminate everything else that was allegedly on this slate that she announced in Celebration. So we'll talk about that.
You just brought up Favreau, and I want to say something about him because I get picked on a little bit because I'm such a propagandist lover of Jon Favreau's work, because he's actually one of us. But yes, I pointed out that he had little to nothing to do with season 3 of Mandalorian. You can tell through the structure and storytelling. It's nothing like his normal writing. In fact, it went goofy. It was goofy. In fact, you can tell it's Disney because it's goofy as fuck.
Well, and also it looked like there were holes in the story, and it appears to be, if I may just add, and I don't want to interrupt your flow because I'm also a huge Jon Favreau supporter, watching it, I was like, as someone who works in this medium, television primarily, right? I was like, watching this looks like at least 2 episodes didn't belong here. Like the whole thing where they went off to that other.
Oh, the whole beginning was off.
Yeah, and then there was then they had a whole episode about just dealing with with that one scientist dude, an actor who actually worked with on Sleeper Cell, very good actor. And so I was like, this feels like these were rammed in. But why would they ram it in? It means that a couple episodes have been taken off of their story plan. Which, if you look back at the previous season, it looks like a couple episodes were rammed in from somewhere into the previous season, Mando, that didn't belong, right? Because that season was, and that's all because Gina Carano was let go. So they were scrambling to move things around, and so you got 2 seasons that were Jenga badly. There was some good stuff in both seasons, but you could see something was off.
And I still feel something is off because the recent news that Jon Favreau's Mandalorian movie is happening. And I'm like, with the way season 3 ended, I don't know how you're going to be able to successfully do this to make anybody happy. I don't.
Can I give you information? Happening. Can I give you some information? Okay. So, I'd want to talk over the course of our conversation, and I don't want to just be the dominant. There's 6 people on this. I don't want to be talking the whole time. But, I do have some inside information from my contacts inside of Lucasfilm and Disney. Again, take it with a grain of salt, like my friend Doomcock says. You don't have to believe it. They may be lying to me. I know they're real. I know they're in the positions that they're in. They may
both talk to Sparrow, right?
Yeah, that's one of my primary contacts, right? But
he talks about Sparrow a lot.
Yeah, and Doomcock has confirmed a lot, and I've actually given Doomcock is one of the very few people who's sort of in on who that person might be, right? He's one of the very few people I've trusted with that information, right? That's why he's willing to talk about it, because others like, there's no such person or whatever. I was like, well, I trust Doomcock with this because, and then Doomcock's like, oh, okay, now I understand, right? And his own sources corroborated much of what was said. But setting all that aside, so you don't have to believe any of this stuff, right? I'm just presenting information that was given to me by someone I know to be a Lucasfilm insider. They could be wrong. They could be given misinformation. They could be given information that changes later, or they could be telling the truth, right? You decide. I'm just going to give you the information, right, that I had, because I'm not sitting in Lucasfilm to look at this stuff with my own eyes, right? I can only do the game of telephone. So the information they gave me when this came out about Jon Favreau's film, this is only just a few days, it was this week, was that apparently, because initially the Variety announcement was there will be a season 4 of Mandalorian and this movie. That's what the variety announcement is, right?
Yeah, and that's what Rock Lee just paid $9.99 for. Let me read this to you real quick.
Please do.
Cameron, did you hear that they're making the Mando season 4 with 6 episodes, and the last 2 will be a movie? What do you think about this rumor?
Well, I mean, I'm again, based on the information I've been given, that's an incorrect rumor based on the information I've been given. So the information that I've been given is this, okay, is that that as of now, that what they did was they had already had 8 episodes of season 4 of Mando already written. They have those scripts. I was told that months ago. Those scripts were ready. They just didn't know when or how to put it out because so much chaos was happening inside of Disney financially and other things. But they had the material of the storyline. They knew the storyline. It wasn't just a bunch of treatments. They knew what they were doing, right? And then from what I've been told, the plan as of today is that Jon Favreau is going to take the entire arc of that season that he's already written, right? And my understanding is he's substantially involved in the writing of this season, right? And
I hope so, because man, it was terrible at what they did.
Yeah, but to condense it and recreate it as a 2-hour movie. It's not because this idea that he's just taking 2 episodes, ramming them together, I mean, and putting it in the theater, that's kind of thing that's floating around town today, or at least floating around the YouTube today. That's not realistic. These guys have $300-400 million. They're not going to grab 2 episodes of a TV show, put the 2 scripts together and throw it in the theater and hope to make $1 billion. They got the resources. They're going to spend the resources to do it right. And so what they're doing now is they have the whole storyline. They know where season 4, at least initially, this original season 4 begins and ends, who the villain is, what the arc is. They had that. They're like, we're going to take this storyline and we're going to create a new script, maybe using elements of the existing scripts, but create a new feature level epic script that's worthy of a Star Wars movie that takes the storyline we wanted to do and put into that 2-hour movie. And so they're creating a new story based on that. And as a result, if there is a season 4, it's not going to use the existing scripts. That's going to go into the storyline of this 2-hour film, right? And then if there is a season 4, they're going to create a new storyline post that feature film, right? And so, Eddie, now again, I'm going to come from a position of trying to settings because that's what I've been told. Now let's just use common sense. Setting aside rumors and people whispering in ears. Common sense, factual stuff that we can all agree on, most of us can agree on, just factually. Jon Favreau is a master filmmaker. I don't think anybody denies that. You don't have to like everything he does, but I mean, this guy took Iron Man, a property people thought you couldn't pull off as the first Marvel thing, and made it an incredible movie, launched the MCU essentially. This guy's a great filmmaker, going back to Swinger. See, this is what he does. This is his, more than running a studio or anything, this is what he does, okay? So I don't think anyone should have any fear about Jon Favreau writing and directing a Star Wars movie, even if he's creating it from scratch today out of a new idea, if that was what he was doing. This guy's a genius. He's a proven genius over multiple decades. So he's going to and he's a Star Wars fan. He loves this thing. It's not a job for him. He's like he's one of us. This is his heart and soul. He became a movie maker because he fell in love with playing with AT-ATs as a child. Okay, that's who he is. So any fear that this guy is gonna just throw together a couple of episodes of a TV show poorly thought out, well, what's he gonna do with the other $350 million in his pocket? What's he gonna do with it?
I know, right?
Pocket it? Maybe Harvey Weinstein would have done that, but this is Jon Favreau. He wants to make something to play with. You give him $500 million, he's gonna give you a $500 million worth movie. And again, remember, this is a theatrical feature film, the first one to be released since Star Wars Episode 9, which was a disappointment. Objectively, it was a disappointment, even if some of you liked it. It made $1 billion, which is 1/2 of what the first movie made. It should have made $3 billion. That was the projection. First movie is going to make $2 billion. Second is going to make 2.5. Third is going to make 3. That was Wall Street's projection. First movie makes 2. Second one makes 1.3. Third one makes 1. That's the wrong direction you want these things to go in. You want the Avengers Endgame where it gets bigger and bigger. That's the point of it. So he's going to want to reverse that trend. He's going to throw in the money so that this thing makes 2.5 or $3 billion. And that's not going to be coming from grabbing 2 episodes of a TV show and just ramming it together and filming it ad hoc. So again, that's just using our common sense. What I always ask. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe my sources. Use your common sense. Does that narrative make sense? It doesn't. Objectively, it doesn't make sense, right? It just doesn't. So when I hear that, I'm like, okay, that's even setting aside what I've been told. I'm going to put that in the improbable box. Okay.
Absolutely. And by the way, Martin, would you put that back up, the previous one? Because I wanted to play the video. I got a video for it. All right. Rockley, thank you for your $9.99 super chat and for the comment. Hope you were satisfied with Cameron's explanation. And
It was an
here's your
important
thank you
question to
video.
ask, because a lot of people are thinking it.
Yes.
I like you. You have balls. I like balls.
And now the next one. Super chat. What was that? Brandon, the anime guy, a good friend of ours, a friend of this channel, and we are a friend of his channel. I trust Favreau. Hope he can be unencumbered. Thank you for your $2 super chat, and I agree with you wholeheartedly.
I want to address, but let's ask others in the panel. But I want to address.
Well, let me give him his thank you video. Here's your thank you video.
I'd buy that for $1.
We have this one.
Oh, and another super chat from Mariella Newworth. Fantastic to see the great KP. He's very missed and very loved. We still miss you on Twitter. I get mad when I go write something about you and I can't tag you. I'm like, damn it.
Well, I think
I'll
I'm
always
done.
say something about you.
I think I'm done for good. I don't think Mr. Musk is ever going to let me back. It is what it is.
Really? Man, that reeks. So, but thank you. Here's your video. This is one of my favorites.
You pompous, stuck-up, snot-nosed, English, giant, twerp, scumbag, fuckface, dickhead, asshole.
You're a true vulgarian, aren't you?
I love that one. It's one of my favorites.
That's part of my job, Cameron, with Anima, because she was very limited. She grew up in a very musical home, plays musical instrument. She sang opera.
I grew up on opera,
and
yeah.
she's never watched much television or film, and so it's
you're
my job
degrading this high-class intellectual woman? That's what you're doing?
Yes, I'm doing it.
No, I did watch stuff, but there's just a lot that I don't know or never thought I would like, and he's just throwing me into the cold water.
I'm introducing you to Cheers, Frasier, just classic TV, the best written stuff.
Well, that's good stuff.
Eventually, I'll introduce her to Taxi, but
all that is good stuff. You know, all those classics are good. Yeah.
Even animated stuff.
I still haven't done this. And Martin, I hope you get the video ready for Tim. So Martin, we have FKHC 2005, aka Tim here. You want to play his little video quick?
Yes.
By what name are you known?
There are some who call me Tim.
I love that he says it like a question. Tim? We want to Gap After Dark is here. Our good friend Penny is here. Surgeon MD, I believe, comes from you, Cameron, because that's someone new to our channel.
Yeah. Surgeon MD is one of my members. Yeah.
D-Bud Martin, Mrs. A, the Peter Vinkman fan site, aka Vinkman's Girl, Mr. Grant Gregory, Parrot Head, Scribe Light, Munkajibus, E. Clay Thomason, Connie Cleary is here, Shadow Storyteller, Andy Morrow, Warachi, Courtney's Fellowship of Oddballs. Courtney, you don't get to shit on me today. So Real Wade Nation Gaming is here. Our good friend Wade. Six is here. And Six had a nice little comment. Let me find that one real quick. She said, there it is. Breaking news. Kamran Pasha announces the head of Warner Brother Discovery is leaving.
No, that's not what I said. I was using a hypothetical example. Please don't do that, because then my enemies will say
sarcastic. She's being snarky.
But the fact is that industry where YouTube is a world where you can't joke because people don't have a sense of humor.
You got to be careful because some people don't get it. Read by Nature is here. Lady V Elements is here. Rock Lee, and thank you for being here, Rock Lee. Great question. Daryl Brewer is here. Brandon, the anime guy. Jedi Bill is here. Look at that. We got a Jedi in the house. Adnan Kabir is here. Mariella Newworth. Lord Trinan is here. Yep. And Snortopoopas Cuber is here. Plus, I also saw somebody else here that you don't have listed, Martin.
Who would that be?
Forget who it was. I don't know. I have to go back through it, but I saw somebody that you didn't mention. So I hate that.
You mentioned Daryl Brewer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Brandon, the animated guy, had talked about
War Monkey
Favreau being unencumbered.
Yeah.
Do you think if we see Bill Burr and Gina Carano back, that's probably what would happen if they do let him do what he wants to do?
Well, I mean, that would be the obvious thing to the entire external world, right? Because I think Gina has been very clear that she doesn't want to return if the current power structure of Lucasfilm remains in place, which is Kathleen Kennedy and people like her. She said that in interviews, right? So she doesn't want to come back in those circumstances. So if we were to see her, or it was announced that she were to come back, I think we can then get the clear that something within the power structure has changed to make it comfortable for her, right? So at this point now, I'm going to share what I've been told, and now I'm going to be very careful because it's on my Patreon, and even on my Patreon I was very careful because I do not want to screw this up for anybody, right? So I was told by my Lucasfilm insider that at the very least, Jon Favreau has openly expressed a desire to mend fences with Gina Carano in the immediate aftermath of this announcement of his new movie, right? That within 24 hours, that the intention of trying to find a way to fix it with Gina and maybe bring her back is in the office. Now, the only way that could be done, the preliminary method for making that happen, is for Gina and to meet with John and probably her representatives. Whether that meeting has happened, will happen, it's not on the books. I've been given information about this possible meeting, but I'm not going to reveal it because all of these conversations are sensitive, and I don't want to derail anything. If this information is true, and at least there are overtures being made to her camp, right? Let's not screw that up. Let's let them have their private conversations in whatever pace they want to have them, right? And because we all want to see that final outcome, right? But I will say that if we were to hear in the near future that Gina Carano is back in, I think we can all pretty much conclude what that means for who's in charge of Lucasfilm, because a certain person will not allow her back in. So even if that person's name is still on the masthead, if she were to come back in, I think we all know that just because you have a title doesn't mean you have power. So we'll see. That will be the proof of it.
Yeah. I want to go back over something that Keith and I have talked about for a while now. I've never gotten your opinion on it because Keith and I have our own assessments of things.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I was never a Chapek fan.
I was a big
fan,
but what's your perspective?
Me too.
But when I look back at what he was trying to do, he managed to do something. And also, by the way, Keith is the first one to tell you, I predicted that Bob Iger was going to do what he did, come back. I said he's going to do that. I guarantee you, the reason why he didn't fully leave is because he's going to see what happens and then he's going to try to be the fix-it guy. But he's the one who created the mess. He created every single major problem they've got, hiring the people that he's hired. And on top of that, when he got Chapek in there, he tried to treat him like a puppet guy. But when he did his first speaking engagement about what he's going to do, he derailed Bob Iger's ideas of what was going to happen. So Bob Iger began to basically subvert everything he was trying to do through his board, building his board the way he wanted, non-entertainment people. These were all
and I think Iger's been honest about that. I think that's even been said in the press. I think he's been.
It's in his book. He admits to everything he's doing, and and this is why I hate him so much, because he comes in like he's going to clean up the mess, and I said, you made the mess, and you can't clean a floor with a dirty mop. And that's the problem with Bob Iger. And I've said this all along, he's the real problem. And he undid the one thing that Chapek helped do. He stopped Kathleen Kennedy by moving her away from Star Wars onto other projects. And Bob Iger's the one that brought her back into Star Wars.
I don't know that he brought her back. I think he's been dealing with her. And, I think the challenge is that Chapek had no relationship with her at all. He couldn't care less about her, which also means she had no leverage on him. There was no, hey, remember that party in 1987 where you got a little handsy with that intern?
Right.
She don't got
those where all the skeletons are, right.
Right. So Iger's got to walk a different path with her because there's an old standing relationship with skeletons.
Gotcha. Yeah. And that's it. That town's filled with them. And that's the unfortunate thing. That's the unfortunate thing about this incredible business. There are just so many skeletons that's really a part of how business gets done, unfortunately. It's not about...
I mean, a lot of really bad people are very creative. I mean, that tends to be all like a correlation, right? Some of the most brilliant people, let's be objective. As a judge, as a as a connoisseur of independent film and a judge of creativity, Harvey Weinstein was a genius in that sense, right? He made his Miramax was based on finding improbable indie films like Shakespeare in Love and making them massive commercial successes. He was very good at that. That requires a certain level of creative genius that other people did not have and have not had since his downfall. He was also an immoral human being. They were both true.
Yep. And it's very true. Historically, we know this is true. And we know quite a few of these people, names are starting to come out now with that list. And it's like some people I think are completely innocent and are like on the list for the wrong reasons, just because they happen to be someplace. But some of these people are repeat customers. And where there's smoke, there's fire.
The whole George Lucas thing is the unseemly part of this, and the fact that there's
that list, I know.
Several people within Lucasfilm that want to use that to further damage his reputation is really just disgusting.
And that's exactly what they're doing. They're weaponizing it.
Yeah.
In the industry to do damage to maintain the current status quo within Star Wars. Are you seeing that too?
Well, first of all, the list's purpose was that. I'm going to give some opinions here, and I don't want to get you demonetized. I'm going to be careful how I phrase these opinions, right? So, this gentleman that we're referring to, this apparently dead individual who got into all these people into these unusual circumstances with a lot of famous people, right? So, my opinion, and I'm not alone in this opinion, is that this was an intelligence operation, that this was a honeypot intelligence operation being set up by very specific agencies to get a lot of these people on video so that they can then back certain policies domestically and internationally in the United States and in Europe and other places.
You are so on it, buddy. You are on it.
Yeah.
But even after where we are today, that remains its purpose. How this list is being edited and released and when it's being released, do you think these guys are just going to give up this game? This is the best thing they've had in a century. The kind of power they got over these people, little girls. I mean, they got all that power of these people. They ain't going to give that up. The judge knows that. The judge doesn't want to, have her brakes fail, right? And so it's all being let out in a certain way that continues to further this agenda of controlling certain people.
Yep. I've been saying for quite a while, this list is, in my opinion, going to be edited.
Of course it is.
So, yeah.
I'm sorry. Snortapoopa says, as a bear, I have to be careful around honeypots.
There's so many layers I could take that in LA, but I'm not going to.
The list has already been edited because a lot of there's been names on those lists that's been redacted.
Yeah.
And the only names you're going to be released are released because they want them released.
That's right.
That. Yep. And why they want them released, you have to figure out each individual what the purpose is.
It's like I've been saying, this kind of behavior doesn't know sex, it doesn't know religion, doesn't know politics. Mm-hmm. There's a list across the board of names, and there are many people who have been hoping for the release of this, that if they ever truly released all the names, you would be shocked.
The system would end. The world would end.
Yeah.
It would pretty much, most governments would be overthrown. It's a lot of wars would stop overnight. A lot of people making money in those wars don't want the battles to stop. And so by the way, that is correct.
There you go.
I'm not just
you've hung out with Shinatsky. You've had lunch with him.
Very good guy. A very creative guy.
But he's pointing out he's okay. I like him.
So, look, again, if those want to go to my Patreon, you'll read more about it. And even there, I'm very careful. I will say this, and I'm going to say this again carefully for your channel and for my safety. There is overlap between the list and a specific thing at Lucasfilm. And I've talked about it on my channel, which is the Leslie Headland project, The Acolyte. That's why nothing around The Acolyte makes any sense. That's why none of it adds up. It's because it is part of that operation. It is not part of the normal Kathleen Kennedy screwing around and messing things up because she doesn't know what she's doing or is on a vengeance bent. That thing is part of something much bigger that has nothing to do with Lucasfilm. It has a lot to do with intelligence agencies. And I've said that on my, because I now been able with my contacts inside of Lucasfilm to piece together where the financing for that project came from. And at which point I wrote on my Patreon and said, I'm not looking at this any further because it then entered into that territory of the names on that list. And I said, you know what? Nope. There's a certain point where I'm like, I'm not looking any further into this because I have a lot of other things to do than dying on the freeway. So,
I know. Somehow shooting yourself twice in the back of the head. You know, I know how that goes.
Yeah, and so I got work to
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I got work to do, and this thing ain't that important to me to get myself. This stupid show ain't important for me to die over. So, but you know, if anyone's wondering why it doesn't make any sense, it's because it's not even Kathleen Kennedy incompetence. There's something else going on that project.
Yeah, it seems like there's a certain level of malevolence to it, and
malevolence and insidiousness. It's not about Lucasfilm. It's not about making movies. It's not about making that TV show. It's not about any of that. It's about
agendas
as a front for something else.
So once again, Six put it up there. I'm going to put it up again. This is Cameron's Patreon channel. He does post a lot over there, and I
share a lot more detail there. You know, we have pretty lively conversation on there. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's from your Patreon that I got that message, and that's why I messaged you, and I'm glad you came on, because I'm letting you know we are not in that ilk. We support you. We love what you do, and you are, and you will always be, in our opinion, a man of great integrity.
Thank you. And the fun of it is, in this past week, all those that question my credibility are melting down like crazy people. They're melting down because their entire narrative collapsed. These were the same clowns as 6 months ago went out there shouting with great certainty and their inner sources that Jon Favreau had left Lucasfilm in a huff, that he was angry and he couldn't, and he had left and he had quit and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, why would he quit? Indiana Jones just failed.
This is what we said too. It's like, look, man, he's waiting for his chance.
Yes. Why would he quit? It makes no sense. And people said, well, Cameron, you're just wrong because 25 YouTubers are telling me their sources are saying, I was like, what are their sources? Their source is the other YouTuber. It's like a circle jerk, right? I mean, that's their source, right?
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, their sources. I called my actual sources who have offices and cubicles there, and they said, what are you talking about? John's got a parking space here. Comes in every day. He's biding his time. He's having private meetings with Filoni. I reported also my Patreon at the height of all this when Jon Favreau has left. This summer I was reporting, my people were like, he just had a private meeting off the books with Filoni that we don't know what it was about. But he and Filoni left to have a private meeting that for some conversation they didn't want in the office, right? So they were plotting together with their agendas, right? Which seems to have come to fruition now. And so now that suddenly Jon Favreau has announced the next big movie, all those characters like, Favreau quit. They're all like pretending they didn't say that. I'm like, come on, guys. We have like 40 videos of this. So
yeah, people trying to change the story at the last second. By the way, the comment right here by J.W. Choi, didn't a former officer say that he thought that that person matter was a certain overseas intel agency's operation?
Yeah, it's the one with the big M. Yes, it's the one with the big M. Robert Maxwell, who was a spy for the Big M. Again, none of this is conspiracy theory. You can read books on it. Robert Maxwell, who is Ghislaine Maxwell's father, was a spy for the Big M, and that's how they connected. So yeah, I mean, that's what this world is, right? I mean, it is what it is.
Just to put it to you, an interesting thing. Many years ago, I designed the marketing materials for the security agency that ran security for Disney.
Okay.
And I learned through that agency when I was doing that work for them that Disney is like a small country with their own government.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that firsthand. And that scared the crap out of me. And
that's why something like the Acolyte, something like the Acolyte can have the involvement of government agencies, because this whole thing it's a government of its own, and intelligence agents overlap it, because it's a government, right? And so, because it is a global thing, it has physical properties, and has properties in China. Wouldn't a huge property in China open to the general public of China be very useful if you were a spy? Wouldn't it be useful to have that property? Wouldn't it be useful? I mean, just theoretically.
Just a tad bit, just a little. I mean, hey, our Muslim uncle
Langley
is
had
here,
a
man.
Huge campus in the middle of Shanghai. That was a Langley campus branded as an amusement park. Why wouldn't they do that? Why not? Sounds like a wasted opportunity to not do it.
But I wanted to point out our Muslim uncle's here. We don't call him your Muslim uncle. We refer to them. Yes, our Muslim uncle, as we call him. And I always do Pauly Shore going, Assalamu alaikum, brother. It's good to see you, man.
Yeah, Yasin's wonderful. He's a good friend of mine.
Yep. I love him. We follow each other on Twitter and talk a lot.
Very sincere guy, very clean heart.
Yeah, it's like we agree on far more than we disagree on. And I love
we
that
agree.
about it.
We have different inflections on it. But I actually want to go back for a second. I want to talk a little bit about Salam Dara. I want to talk a little bit about what this announcement did and how it derailed this narrative we were talking about when you asked me, Keith, earlier about what surprised me, right? So
you're talking about the Mandalorian news, because that dropped on a non-news day. So that tells me something that they're in panic mode.
Correct. That wasn't the big news. But there was a reason it dropped. They had to drop it. Do you know why they had to drop it? Because Jon Favreau was fed up. You know what he was fed up with? He was fed up with this Charmin Obey-Chinoy running around without any authorization, talking about a movie that doesn't exist, right? And screwing up his work. He got pissed off about this because people didn't understand this. I said from the very beginning that the Rey movie isn't real. There is no Rey movie. If you remember what had happened, Damon Lindelof.
I've said the same thing. I don't believe it.
Yeah, because it doesn't make any sense. Damon Lindelof. This is all public. Forget private information. Damon Lindelof was supposed to be doing a movie for Kathleen Kennedy's Star Wars movie. Suddenly, in a flurry just before Star Wars Celebration of February of last year, he was fired and the project was killed. This is all publicly known because Damon Lindelof came out and said, the project is dead. I'm sorry. Suddenly, that's what he said publicly. I didn't work out. Then suddenly, a few days later, Star Wars Celebration happens, and Kathleen Kennedy drags poor Daisy Ridley on the stage, who looks like a deer in headlights, and brings this smug-looking Charmin Obey-Chinoy. I have a lot of issues with it because I'm a fellow Pakistani, and I don't like what she's done. Right? I don't like what she's done creatively. I don't like how she's handled any of this because who is she?
She's a non-creative, first of all. Let's be honest.
She's a non-creative. She's a documentary filmmaker, which is a journalistic. It's a journalist. Yeah, she's an actress, and I greatly respect documentary filmmakers. A friend of mine is an award-winning documentary filmmaker, but it's a journalistic skill. You're a journalist. You're interviewing people. You're editing footage. You're a journalist. It's a very important art form, but it's a journalistic art form. It is not directing actors. It's not creating stages. It's none of that, right? It's a whole other skill set.
Nor should it even have a narrative, which is the problem with some people who call themselves documentarians. If it has a narrative, it is not a documentary.
Oh, there's a
documentary should allow the viewer to decide.
Correct. I mean, the filmmaker is going to have a POV. That's how they emphasize which interviews they emphasize. But there's propaganda, and a lot of documentaries are propaganda, and she's made them. She's won 2 Oscars by making propaganda about how crappy my country of Pakistan is, right? It's like, there's a lot of wonderful things happening in Pakistan. It has one of the biggest charity networks on the planet that's never been covered, right? One of the most successful charity networks, the AD Foundation, right? Which literally this guy spent 60 years of his life living in a small room and basically attracted hundreds of millions of dollars of money that's flowed back out to the people, right? And so never documentary on this guy. You never heard of him, right? So I mean, he was like the Mother Teresa of Pakistan. Never heard of him. She didn't make those documentaries because Hollywood is anti-Muslim, and here's a chance to make Pakistan look bad. So she made 2 documentaries about how terrible Pakistan is towards women, towards this, towards that. She got 2 Oscars for it, but she never made a film, and her ambition was to make a film. So her next stage was she tried to get into narrative filmmaking by doing some television. She directed 2 episodes of Ms. Marvel, which is a very good show, which people should actually watch, right?
I love the show. I loved it because I watched it.
Yeah, and it ended up being, it's a creative show, and it's a family value show. But her 2 episodes were completely reshot 1 year later. They looked at him and they said, we can't do this. They brought her back in and they had to reshoot the whole thing because she didn't do it right. She'd never directed actors before. So they had to reshoot the whole thing. So this person doesn't know how to direct a simple episode of television, right? And you're going to give her a $300, $400 million movie? That seemed improbable at the announcement. And then who do they have? Again, a week before, Damon Lindelof is not doing the movie. There is no movie. Then suddenly Stephen Knight. Who's Stephen Knight? Let's look at who he was. Stephen Knight was a successful independent filmmaker 10 years ago. He made some Oscar-winning indie films, Oscar-nominated indie films, right? Indie films. And then he disappeared. And guess what he did? He became a game show creator. He created Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So this dude went off and made a very successful game show, made a lot of money from it. And then he wanted to get back into being creative again. So he started writing for TV, and he wrote Peaky Blinders, which was a success in the UK. But he wants to be a movie guy like he was 15 years ago.
Great series.
Right. But he wants to be back getting his Oscars that he was getting 15 years ago. So he's trying to get back into movies, but doesn't have really much mojo in movies anymore. So suddenly he's like, well, I'm writing a big movie for Star Wars, right? So you have all these people who have an agenda, which is not about making a Star Wars movie. Each of them is trying to salvage their career. You know, Daisy's trying desperately to get real work. She's a good actress who didn't work out for, right? Adam Driver's been more successful than she has in Star Wars, right? You've got Charmine, who's desperately trying to become a narrative filmmaker. And you got Steven, who's trying to become a feature writer again. So all these, Kathy grabs all these three people with an agenda, throws them on stage out of nowhere. At the time, I reported on my Patreon, and I was mocked for this. I was called a liar for this. I said, my sources, I said, what's going on with this? You guys told me she was going to kind of like step down at Celebration. Instead, she's announcing these projects. And my sources said, well, none of us knew about this Rey project. Nobody knew. Favreau didn't know. Filoni was like, what's going on here? Why is Daisy on stage? And that's what they told me. And I reported it. It said only, and they said specifically, only Kathleen and her 2 or 3 closest inside friends even knew this was going to happen. So that's not a real movie, because a real movie has to have legal department okays. It has to have the, accountants involved. That's not a movie. That's just the boss giving a wish list. So I reported this, mocked, called a liar. Not, last month, Daisy really does this interview where she says there's, number one, no script after 9 months, no script. She still hasn't seen the script after 9 months. And she says, she was quite that she said exactly what I said. She said, nobody in Lucasfilm knew we were going to do this. Kathy just brought me up on stage. Nobody except her 2 or 3 closest people knew we were going to announce this. It's exactly what I reported, and I was mocked for it. So it's now true, because now Daisy has confirmed it, right? So as of last month, Daisy Ridley was saying there's no script. I would love to do this movie, but there's only a storyline that's been changing a lot. I don't know what's happening with it. And so a lot of people were disappointed. You know who's the most disappointed? Charmine Obaid-Chinoy, who needed this announcement to boost her career. So in the last 9 months, if you go to her IMDb, she still doesn't have any work. There's nothing on her IMDb. She's not filming a TV show. She's not making a doc. She's not doing anything, right? There's nothing in development. A year ago, she announced in 2022, a year and a half ago, she announced she was doing something with Will Smith to sort of get him back in the game after the slap, right? That's not even on her IMDb as in development. A Will Smith movie that was announced in the trades, it's not even there because it died. It died on the vine, and it was removed from the IMDb because it's not real. So she's got nothing going on. So end of last year, her PR team decided, baby, we got to get you some work. We got to get paid. You're not making any money. Let's start giving you some interviews where you start talking about this Star Wars movie. Even though there's no script, as my sources have confirmed what I was speculating, she doesn't have a contract. It's a handshake. When there's a movie, we'll bring you on as director. That's not a deal. That's not a contract. And so, whatever. So she decided, I need somebody, maybe NCIS will hire me for an episode if they know that I'm doing something, right? And so she goes out on this media blitz a week ago, 10 days ago. It feels like it was 10 years ago now. 10 days ago, she started this media blitz going CNN about, and all these stupid things, because she's in her own bubble where she's living there. Oh, well, I want to shock men. It's like she's reading a script from 15 years ago, or like 10 years ago, right? She's not even in the real world. She's so disconnected from Star Wars to know that reading that dumb script about, I want to make a movie that's misandrous is not going to work today, right? She's reading an old script because she's that disconnected, but she doesn't know what's going on. So she does this, and of course, Daily Wire jumps on and goes, look at this, all these left-wingers in Hollywood. So Daily Wire is now getting clicks over it, and guess what? All of our less ethical YouTubers jumped on it as well. Like, see, Kathleen Kennedy is still ruining Star Wars and the misandrous. I said, dude, there's no movie. She's just making it up to get work. And people said, Cameron, and what happened after 10 days of this blitz, which is the only thing you were hearing about? Star Wars, the Rey movie. That's all you heard about for the beginning of the new year, right? And then suddenly Jon Favreau goes, I got stuff to do. This is screwing up. People are turning against Lucasfilm again. And my people inside Lucasfilm were they're like, who is this woman? We don't even know who she is. I don't think we've ever seen her at the office. And she's running around making these statements. So Favreau said, okay, I've had enough. And he puts out on Monday, or Tuesday, puts out this announcement of a huge, and suddenly her Rey movie is blown out of the water. Even the articles are talking about it that believed it was real are now saying, well, clearly it's been pushed to the back burner because you have a Go film with a hugely successful filmmaker, right? Based on a proven commercially successful product. Not everybody liked everything on Mando, but people are buying Baby Yoda toys. This movie's going to work. Everyone knows this movie's going to work.
I was good for 2 seasons. I was good for 2.
But good. But there's enough normies out there that are going to go watch this movie. They're hungry for a Star Wars movie to watch in the theater that's not garbage. It won't be garbage. It's going to be pretty good, probably great. It's Favreau, but it won't be bad. And so people are hungry for this. And so Charmin has been not, my smart Alex on my, because we have an Urban Dictionary on my Patreon where we use all these fun code names to talk about things. And so now one of the smart Alex on my Patreon came up with this wonderful code, which is squeezing the Charmin, which is when you basically kill somebody who's fake by co-opting them. You squeeze the Charmin.
We need to get Mr. Whipple in there.
Exactly.
Don't squeeze the Charmin.
So Charmin has been squeezed. She's off. Are you hearing any more interviews of Charmin O'Bachanoy talking about the Raid movie? She's done. She's done. PR's like, sorry, baby, we tried. You big 800-pound gorilla just came in. There ain't no Raid movie. And again, these same characters a week ago, like, look, the Rey movie is coming. Star Wars is doomed. Or now they don't know what to do. So they're freaking out and they're coming out with these bizarre things like, I'm hearing it's just going to be 2 episodes rammed together, right? Of a script just making stuff up because they're embarrassed. They look stupid. And their entire story that Favreau is gone is wrong. The story that the Rey movie is happening has now been falsified. Everything's been falsified in the period of 3 days. So they're becoming crazy. We're watching the breakdown of fake YouTube, of the dishonorable YouTubers that don't have integrity. They're melting down, and it's going to get worse because Favreau has now established, hey, buddy, I'm in charge here, okay? He's made an aggressive move, and 24 hours later, I got the call that at least the desire to bring Carano has been expressed in a serious fashion. At the very least, that has happened, right? So there is an intention to try to make it work with Carano, to try to resolve it. There's that intention. Whether it happens or not, we'll see. So that's within 24 hours. So he wants her back in this movie. So imagine if this movie has Gina Carano, Bill Burr, Luke Skywalker, and who's going to be the villain of this movie? Who do you think is going to be the villain of the movie? It's going to be Thrawn. He doesn't have anything else bigger than Thrawn in the world he's set up. If you think of Thrawn as the villain of a $350-400 million epic movie, that's essentially the beginning of the heir to the empire. If we want you to introduce Thrawn in a movie, that's going to be the biggest movie of the year. I mean, and so all these people who are talking nonsense for 9 months are left scrambling because their boat just got torpedoed and it's not going to be repaired. It's just going to go down now.
Yeah, and by the way, I think that was Sox, wasn't it? Just mentioned that Mikey Sutton, before he passed away, talked about heir to the empire being something that could be happening down the line that he had heard.
He was a guy that was tied in. I mean, I loved him. I had a few interactions with him. I had a few DMs with him. Man of real character, and he really was tied into what was going on.
Yep. Back when, because he was another one that would get attacked, and we go, man, Mikey Sutton, he misses on this one. I said, name one where he missed, and I will tell you, wait, because you don't understand. It doesn't happen immediately in Hollywood. You could have 1 year to 2 years from his prediction before it comes to fruition. And that guy was betting. Mikey was betting 1,000. If you know baseball, he was betting 1,000.
Well, again, his prediction
he had never missed.
Yeah,
it just sometimes took a while for it to happen. But
well,
it broke Keith my heart when we lost him.
Well, but again, let's bring it back. Let's forget what just happened with Jon Favreau. Even let's say we were back 4 days ago, 5 days ago, when the only thing that mattered was the Rey movie is happening, right? But I was like, guys, is that realistic? Let's say that all of this is true. Let's say that we know publicly Daisy Ridley said on November, like the end of November 3rd or so, she said there is no script. So at the end of the year. So let's say over Christmas, we know that publicly, there was no script on November 3rd. That's when she said it. So let's say over the next 6 weeks, over Christmas, Stephen Knight wrote a brilliant script that is great, that is filmable. So what's the process from there? The process is you now have to get approvals. You have to get the internal executives approving it, just within Lucasfilm. Then it has to go to above Lucasfilm, to people below Dana Walden who have to like it. They're probably going to have notes. It's probably going to be sent back. But let's say it has no notes. Even that has to get to Dana Walden. Dana Walden has to approve it. Then eventually gets to Bob Iger, and he has to approve it, right? And, it's considering that he's under attack from shareholders right now, from Nelson Peltz, to give this first-time filmmaker who's making idiotic comments, misandrous comments, $400 million, that's probably not something he can defend to Nelson Peltz. It's not realistic. But let's say he did. Let's say the script is so brilliant that he's like, I don't care. I'll go down. I'll lose my career over this. I'll be fired from Disney because the script is too good. All right, great. He greenlights it. That would be like March of this year of the process of just getting the approvals. Then what does greenlighting mean? Greenlighting means, oh, now you got to put the pre-production team together. So you got to hire the production designers and the costume designers and the prop designers. You got to hire the storyboard artists. You got to hire the VFX people to create designs. You got to start creating special effects, blah, blah, blah. You got to start casting because her movie was in a new world. All, at best, you'd have Daisy Ridley. You'd have to have a whole new cast because Luke is dead. Everybody's dead, right? There's nobody left except her, right? In this fake Star Wars timeline. So you'd have to cast a whole new movie. So that's going to take at least 6 months to a year. So you're looking at this movie not filming until 2025. Right, at least. And so what's the world going to be like in 2025? Who the hell is going to be president in 2025? I don't know, right? I mean, can we even look that far out? Will Iger still be a president of Disney, CEO of Disney in 2025? The idea that this movie was about to happen was always a delusional thing. Mikey Sutton would have understood. Let's say everything lines up and the script is perfect. There's 18 months before this movie gets to screen, and the whole world can change in 18 months.
Absolutely.
I ran.
By the way, I see Polly is in the chat, and I wanted to invite Polly to join us if he wanted to ask you any questions.
Hermano,
so
please.
I'm going to send him an invite.
Mm-hmm.
And but before we leave Disney, are there any other things that you would like to talk about from the Disney side of things, like even with Marvel, because it looks like Feige's in trouble. I've said for a while, since 2019, they lost their collective mind on how to do Marvel. Yeah. But Keith and I have been absolute outspoken critics of Kevin Feige for a while because people fell for his bullshit of being a comic book fan, and we're like, really? Are you really? Because we don't think so. And it's proof is in the pudding, in what he's done so far. Oh, Shanatsky's joined us. There's Shanatsky.
Hey, welcome. Literally just got off work.
Great to see you.
Do you see a future for Kevin Feige? Because I really think he's at the end of his job.
Again, let's look at it objectively and look at what my sources claim. Let's look objectively. Objectively, he doesn't look like he's in great shape. I mean, he doesn't look like he's in great shape, right? I mean,
financially, they've lost money under him.
Yeah, The Economist. I believe The Economist just did an article about Marvel being in trouble. The Economist, right? We're talking about serious Wall Street, old school rich money. We're talking about the Rothschilds own The Economist, and they're saying the Rothschilds, Lord Rothschild, is saying that Feige's in trouble. That's usually a sign you're in trouble, right? If Lord Rothschild is saying that, that means the power-ups are talking about you, right? That's just objective true. This Marvel's movie was terrible. The only thing good in it was, of course, the lovely Ms. Marvel, who carried a movie that was badly written. God bless her. And the great thing is, people finally in this movie, the fans woke up and realized, oh, this actress is actually pretty good and her character is pretty good. And she's a fan and she made all these comments that criticize how Feige's been handling it. Now, all the people that wouldn't watch Ms. Marvel.
Very based.
Yeah. And
she's
they
very
and people wouldn't watch Ms. Marvel because it's not made for me. It's a brown girl. She must be woke, blah, blah, blah. They were now watching like, oh, this was actually what we wanted all. I was like, yeah, I told you that a year ago, whatever. So she's going to have a career. Ms. Marvel as a character will, I think, come back and hopefully be treated better. But objectively, Kevin Feige's in bad shape. He's in very bad shape because he's made no money. You know what? Echo is out. Has anyone watched Echo? I mean,
I just watched that one scene and I was so unimpressed with the choreography. I'm like, yeah, I'm not interested in this.
I mean, I saw her character in that earlier show. I mean, the character's fine, but I was like,
it wasn't interesting. It was okay.
There's no show here. There's not. This actress is a perfectly good actress. I'd cast her. She's a good actress. But there's characters they didn't give her enough to build a show on, and I don't think anyone was watching it. So yeah, he's failed. So objectively, he's in trouble. Again, if one can say, well, Disney doesn't care about making money. Let's say that is true. Iger doesn't care about making money, right? Well, Nelson Peltz does, and Nelson Peltz isn't backing down like he backed down last year. He's coming at this. He's not stopping. So even if Iger doesn't want to make money, a guy wants to fire him who wants to make money. So he's got to deal with it, right? So that's objectively what we know. Victoria Alonso, put Marvel in trouble, and Victoria Alonso is gone. That was already a sign that things were going to change, right? And so now I'm going to give you what a source, and this is not Sparrow for those that don't believe Sparrow or criticize me. This is a new source I've developed over the last 2 months. I love code names. We codenamed this person Phoenix, right? They are inside of Marvel, and they've been pretty good. And they came back just a few days ago and said the talk inside the office is that Feige is going to get fired. That's what people in the office are now speculating and presuming. So the people in the office in the cubicles are saying the boss ain't going to be here much longer. So take that for what it's worth.
Wow. Well,
no, it's what we've now. Keith and I have talked about this, that we feel that way. That it's like we get the pulse. It's not like we have insiders. We just watch what's going on, and we get a pulse.
And you have common sense. You have common sense. You're not ideologically motivated for an outcome to be true. You're just using your common sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm good at reading a room when it comes to things and how things are going, and it's just something I've always been good at. But we got to go to our break. We have a 1 minute break, and this is where you can watch the trailer for my comic book, Cameron, and find out what the story is. I'm taking my military skills and working for Dale Dye, and I'm making a graphic novel that is in a real world. How would somebody like the Punisher or Batman exist, and who could do it? So watch the trailer. Go ahead, Martin. Get it going, baby.
Meet the Seattle Vigilante. Like so many comic heroes, this warrior hides his identity. But his identity isn't the only secret he has to keep. After grievous wounds received during combat, Tier 1 operator John Russell begins to recover and comes to terms with his new reality of being an amputee. And as he learns how to use his new prosthetic limb, he finds himself caught up in the bureaucratic red tape that too many wounded veterans experience, the exhausting medboard process. Out of sheer frustration, John takes it out on the criminal scum of the city. But when reality kicks in, John realizes he started something that's having an impact on the greater world around him, and thus has to reevaluate his motives. And moreover, just how far is John willing to go to finish this war he's declared against the criminals in Seattle? And will he even survive? From the creator of IDW's award-winning graphic novel Code Word Geronimo comes a new story about a different kind of warrior, Vindicated, Inc., the first of its kind disabled veteran action hero comic. The Vindicated, Inc. graphic novel crowdfunding campaign on fundmycomic.com is provided in the description of this video. We hope you become a contributor. Please share this link. Thank you.
We're nowhere near to where we need to be. Thank you very much. But I chose a bad time to launch the campaign, the holidays. And so we're going into a big push.
Yeah, just keep promoting it. It's over. I mean,
that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep pushing it. And the store, we're going to keep it open even after the campaign's over. We're going to keep it up for people to keep contributing because all I need right now is enough to fund for creating the book. And then later we'll worry about printing it. There's our dear friend Paulie, the Latino slant is here. He has the sexiest mustache on YouTube right now.
What's going on?
What's going on? Fuck you. You know what's going on. We got Kamran Pasha here, buddy.
Hello, Paulie.
Well,
what's going on, gentlemen?
Well, I was on Paulie's channel earlier this week, where a lot of things we predicted just happened within 24 hours. Right, Paulie? You know, it was we were talking about that we literally said that if John is going to do this movie, he's going to reach out to Gina Carano, and 24 hours later, we started getting word that at least they want to reach out to her. Right, so a lot of things we predicted on your stream just came true within the next day.
Well, if he talked about it, you know this, Cameron. He's already reached out to her.
Yeah. And there were some comments I saw fly back earlier. I just want to refer to, some people said, well, he has to apologize. And, I don't think he has to apologize. I think Gina
he doesn't know her a damn thing other than to keep his word. That's all he owes her is to keep his word. And he'll do it.
I think, and my understanding
what is he? I mean, this is a total separate subject, but what does he actually have to apologize for?
Not a damn thing, Paulie.
It's his fault. He didn't
do it.
It's like, Well, it's like what we saw with the other big firing that some of the YouTubers refused to make the logical connection are similar with what happened to Melissa Barrera on Scream for her political views, right? The director immediately put out, "It's not my fault. I don't want to fire her. I don't agree with this," and then he resigned along with Jenna Ortega. I mean, everyone in Scream resigned because
and then what happens this week? Another slap in the face to Spyglass is the Abigail. The Abigail trailer's released, starring Melissa Barrera, directed by the Scream by the Scream directors, and it looks brilliant, horror comedy. I mean, and then Melissa's got a movie.
What's the name of this one again, Polly?
Melissa's got a movie debuting at Sundance next week, and we will have a writer there.
What was the trailer though? I didn't catch the name.
Abigail. It's the new horror. It is.
Yes, Melissa's becoming the Scream queen. Yeah, she's becoming the new Scream.
She looks great, dude. And she looks great.
Yeah,
listen, Jon Favreau never publicly denounced, degraded on any level Gina Carano. He was probably trying to do everything he could in his power at that time to keep her hired. Right? And it probably infuriated her because he had created the role for her. He had brought her. He is a huge Gina Carano fan. So, what this speaks to, guys, and I get everyone's passion in the chat, but it speaks to a lot of the ignorance, perpetual ignorance that I'm sick and tired of from our friends that have great big channels and great big influence who don't know a damn thing about how this business really operates. And as a man and a woman, as far as Romy, we maneuver in this business every day. Do you know how long, if you're lucky, how long it would take for a script to go from a concept to production? That's incredible. It just doesn't happen, guys. It doesn't happen overnight.
Forrest Gump took 10 years. Forrest Gump took 10 years.
Or if you have millions of dollars, guys, if you have millions of dollars and you throw money away, it's called, right? What is it called? It's called, I know you didn't like it, but this is just opinion. But you throw millions of dollars away at Ahsoka, at Kenobi, and doesn't mean success. It doesn't mean like it's going to be the greatest scripts. It's going to be the greatest productions. Producing something is a mother, right? And it just takes so long for something to get confirmed. And I was thinking about this, even if, let's just say the same week that Daisy Ridley said, "Oh, there's no script." Let's say the next day she got the script saying, "Oh yeah, it's been approved," right? And she didn't know. Let's just give her that. That's still only a few months away. That was a few months ago. The business shuts down for a couple months. They're just now getting going. This director is a freaking joke. So yeah, man. It also has to do with the fact that Iger needs a hit. He's desperate for a hit. So I asked Cameron. I go, you think they gave Favreau creative control? And your opinion, you said he's had it.
My opinion is he's had creative control since essentially I'll tell you the moment when it's very clear. It was very clear publicly was the moment where Steven Spielberg snubbed Kathleen Kennedy on stage, where we all saw it with our own eyes during Indiana Jones premiere, where he basically refused to acknowledge her. You saw the body language of her husband, Frank Marshall, who thought they were about to be praised. The three people had,
they're like all like excited.
And you see him standing there like getting ready for this applause, and then when they say, and when he said
John Williams,
right? John Williams, his head turns like this, and his face goes like, but he's like polite claps, and she stands there enraged, not even clapping. That was when she was finished, and at that point on, Jon Favreau's like, "Hey, so what are we gonna do in the office now? Because somebody's got to be in charge, right?" And that was the point when he's in charge, because at that point everyone saw she got nothing. People in the office saw she got nothing. Once you do that publicly, they're done.
Yeah. KP, I also want to say to everyone in the Pop Culture Minefield chat, don't be shocked, upset, oh my God, when it is announced that Gina's back in that film. Okay, because this is how the business runs, guys. It's dysfunctional. It takes a long time, and then pop, You'll just
It'll
see
just
that.
happen.
Just
like
to
that.
give you an example, I want to give you an example. I did the production art for this movie.
Oh, beautiful.
It's called No Better Place to Die. It's still on IMDb. Tom Hanks, Gary Sinise, Kevin, what's his name? And of course, Dale Dye is my direct boss. I did all the production art storyboards for this movie. Still not made yet.
Yeah.
It's been 10 years.
With that cast.
And it's still going to happen. It's still going to
mean,
happen. Apple is interested in it right now.
So was that film like everything on paper, like they had letters of intent from that cast?
For which one? The
Your
one I'm
project.
talking about?
How far did it get into pre-production? Right.
It's
How far
got cast. Cast are directly involved as producers. All the actors that are involved with this are also producers on the film.
Okay, so no money has been raised to where it was.
No, the money that did get raised was refunded because it wasn't enough, and so they backed away from it. And the intention is right now they've just signed contracts with Apple for several projects, and Apple is seriously looking at it right now. And I'm so proud of this project.
I'm gonna let you in on something. All right, I wrote a script in 2006. It's been optioned. They had groups, they had people, they even had the biggest music names attached to it: Santana, Los Lobos. Shit is still not. It'll never get made. That's just the way the business is, guys. I'm telling you.
It happens.
There's so many things involved, and that team behind it was a really good team of producers, and they got close. They were trying to raise the money themselves. They got real close, man, but. Yeah, that's a whole different animal you're talking about there.
There's no rhyme or reason to any of this. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason. There's no justice to it. Bad movies and shows get made all the time. Good things get lost in things, and sometimes good stuff gets made. There's no rhyme or reason.
And they move from studio to studio too.
I mean, it's
another
case. It is what it is, and you just have to flow with it. That's why getting emotionally invested in the announcement of the day, you can't even get, frankly, emotionally invested in this Jon Favreau movie. I expect it to happen. I expect it to be a good movie. That's still at least a year away before filming. Who knows what the hell the world's going to be like a year from now? Who knows if Disney goes into some kind of extreme chaos that we don't see right now that makes them cut back on all projects, even good ones like Favreau. I don't expect that, but it is possible. That's just the business.
Well, the one thing we haven't talked about, though, with this is one of the names we didn't mention is Isaac Perlmutter, because he's someone else in the wings right now for helping take over the board.
He's part of Elsa's team. Yeah,
exactly. What are you hearing about that right now?
I'll be honest, I'm not personally hearing much about his name, except I don't like making up things. I mean, my source inside Marvel hasn't mentioned Perlmutter, so I haven't heard that name being floated around. I think the fact that Perlmutter is on board is also a big threat to Feige, right? Because as we're beginning to realize, maybe Feige wasn't the genius of all of this. Maybe it was Perlmutter the whole time.
Well, you got to remember, some of us, because I admit it, Keith and I fell for that bullshit about he was bad for Marvel. We fell for that shit from Kevin Feige.
Oh, that was propaganda.
It was pure lies that Isaac Perlmutter was a bad guy for Marvel. No, he was keeping them from doing stupid shit is what he was doing. And they, what's the thing? They wanted to fuck around to find out is what they wanted to do.
Well, it was really all about, having struggled to keep Marvel, first of all, profitable. And so his whole thing, I mean, this guy's a billionaire, so obviously he knows something about business. And looking at it as a business, he was just trying to keep money flowing in that entire company. And the movie business being what it is, I mean, nothing's really certain. But the original idea for Marvel Studios was to use the movies to help
create IPs for.
That's right. Well, to help prop up the IP they already have. And what you've had happen in the intervening years is that everything's been turned upside down. Everything's being made to serve the movies, which is not the way it was originally set up. So you're going to
don't forget to include in that, Keith, that Kevin Feige was trying to find ways to where they didn't have to pay that percentage to owners. So they were trying to get rid of older, certain characters in order to avoid having to pay percentages.
Certain characters, certain
and he
creatives,
fell on his face with this.
Yeah. Certain characters, certain creatives, making sure to change certain characters within the comics, so then they could actually fast track those characters into movies to help back up what they had done in the comics. And it's
which is why Kevin Feige has made a career of taking the worst selling comics and turning them into films.
Yeah,
the worst, and the films are tanking since he started doing that.
Yeah.
Because his instincts are wrong. His instincts are wrong. And his instincts, by the way, on Ms. Marvel, the only good thing that I think Marvel has done in the last 2 years in television, were wrong too, because Ms. Marvel was completely reshot from scratch as well. I have several friends who worked on it, right? And it was reshot.
Right.
And you know who ordered the reshoot? Bob Chapek. The original shoot was Bob Chapek's like, no one's going to watch this. And it was in the direction of the comic went into, which was very woke and all this stuff. And he's like, nah. Chapek's like, that's not what I'm about. No, go back and fix this whole damn show. Make this a family-friendly show that you can watch with your grandma. Go. And they did it. That wasn't Feige. That's the reason.
Yeah,
that's the only good thing about it.
Yeah,
it was shockingly conservative in its views. Socially conservative.
But Chapek, and it's also
it was entertaining.
Chapek,
I love
that Shinoid character. According to Cameron and a couple other people, is that those episodes had to be heavily reshot.
They were.
Yeah, he was talking about it earlier that everything she did had to be redone. By the way, our good friend Kyle is here, Zax. So here's your video, Kyle.
Hey, fuck you, Kyle.
Yeah.
So Kyle, I'm sorry, we interrupted you, Kyle. You were going to say something about this Miss Marvel or Marvel in general.
Yeah, probably.
I'm sorry, Keith. I'm sorry, Keith.
No. All I was going to say is that
all those black guys look alike, man. Don't worry about it, Kyle. Keith. You don't give a fuck.
It's all good.
That's something Gerry would say.
A lot of things to deal with. But the thing about Chapek is that he wanted to make his focus. If you remember, he wanted to focus on Marvel. He had reached a point during his tenure towards the last few months where it was basically, you know what, Kathleen and Star Wars and Lucasfilm can take care of themselves. He was basically not really so much cutting them loose. He was letting them just go and hit the wall. And he was wanting to focus on the thing that was actually making money. And at that time, it made a lot of sense to do that. You know, he could still have an effect on a lot of the films that were either in production or in pre-production to be able to be able to change everything enough to be able to give them an opportunity to basically make money. And when Bob 1 came back and got rid of everything, he just sort of threw cold water on all of that, and we got what we got. So it's bad business all the way around. All of this is just nothing but bad business.
Of course, you know, going back to it is, they created bullshit about Ike Perlmutter in order to get him ousted so they could move forward, Victoria Alonso included, with their planned agenda, which was extremely destructive to the properties that they were working with. But that's my problem with agenda-driven people is they don't care about quality. All they care about is the statement that they need to make. And it ruins entertainment. But I do want to bring this around to another subject because I'm fascinated with this week. Another big ball that dropped this week was Tom Cruise getting a deal with Warner Brothers.
Yeah, saw that.
Which, you know, the last film he produced with them was Edge of Tomorrow. That's the last
Which is a better movie than people realized. Nobody watched it.
It's a great film. Damn good film. And they've been talking about the sequel for a while, and they've been greenlit. They've been moving forward. I believe this is the snowball that's going to bring us finally not just one sequel, but because part of their deal is to create new properties and to take current properties and build them to make them bigger. This is one of the smartest moves I've seen them do, Zaslav, since he fired everybody.
And Zaslav is still the man. I mean, whether you like the guy or not, you have to have a huge set to be able to walk in there and just start cutting people out.
Well, that's exactly. I mean, he's the old school alpha that the original studio head were, the Louis Mayers and whatever, right? And I think he's batting 900. I think he's made a couple of mistakes. I think the big mistake was
James
Roadrunner
Gunn's one of them. I don't know about Saffron, but James Gunn is a mistake in my opinion.
Well, and also Roadrunner versus Coyote. He should have. I mean, he shouldn't be selling that project to other studios. I mean, that's going to be a hit. It's going to be a hit movie.
I think so too.
I agree. I personally think that allowing the Batman movie franchise to move forward is a little bit of a mistake. Not that, again, I know that there are people that love that stuff. Personally, if it were me, I would just be one and done, but I'd be interested if they could make certain adjustments to at least adjust it enough to where
tell a coherent story.
That's right. The scripts have to be better. They have to be better, and you got to spend less. There's no reason to spend the kind of money
that he thought he could write a better script than Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck's script is still a little bit better than what we got with the Batman.
Yeah, a little bit.
There is one thing,
and Affleck is a brilliant filmmaker. Go ahead. Sorry.
One thing I do appreciate, they said new franchises. In other words, they're going to invest.
Yeah, it was included. It wasn't like a
series.
It was included in there. It was new franchises. That's
Which
right.
is what you have to do. And again, Warner Brothers, even though they've had an up and down time, are still better financially than, say, Paramount. I am surprised at how far Paramount has fallen, and they continue to fall. Unless things change for them soon, this year could kick off some really bad things for Paramount unless things change for them. And they have a few good projects, but I think their streaming service is done. I will be surprised if a year from now there still is a Paramount Plus. I think you have a lot of good properties that some of that stuff could actually go to Netflix and other places, and they could basically start making money, which has really been their problem. Everybody's talking about Disney, but Paramount is the one studio, which you can really call it much of a studio anymore, given how much they've lost. It has a lot of potential, but they're not doing any of that stuff. And
what about that rumor today?
Yeah. I mean,
what about that rumor today that JJ's coming back for Star Trek? What about that?
Hey, really quick, did you see the link I sent you before you jump on?
Yes, this one here, because Zax has it up there. Polly at Latino Slant wrote a book.
No, dog. Private chat. So the thing with Edge of Tomorrow too, apparently the script has been done.
Yeah,
there is.
Because the director's been talking about it for a while.
I mean, so going off of what Cameron said in regards to the Ray movie or now the Favreau thing, this thing's ready to go.
Yeah, it's ready to go. Yeah. This is a film that's fully written and has production art already done for it. This is something that's already into the pre-production stage quite far.
Gotcha. All right, stand corrected. There you go.
Okay. All right. This could end up being one of the shockingly cool announcements. And as soon as they announce they're going to start work on this, there's going to be an excitement. Tom Cruise knows two things: how to be a star and how to be a good businessman. He's one of the few people that seems to balance that out. And I keep saying, if everybody would just try to ape what he's doing, I think we'd be a lot better off, because it is about the audience. Ultimately, you want them to get
always.
Money.
It's always about the audience.
And
he's one of the last old school movie stars that understands that there is no movie star without the audience. Yes.
Yeah, and I look forward to seeing what he can do with Warner Brothers, because again, Paramount's not doing too much.
Yeah, they're in trouble. Yeah. And I saw, because Sherry Redstone, she was recently trying to sell parts of CBS, Paramount.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she ain't her dad. I mean, this is the problem you always face, is that the child of great people, child of great men, tends to live in their shadow and not live up to it. I mean, she doesn't know how to do stuff like she does.
I want to temper that a little bit, because you remember her dad is the one that worked with Les Moonves to split Star Trek. That started this whole problem.
Yeah, but I don't think her dad
was to fix it.
Bad Trek. Yeah. And
The
so
way I look
mean,
at this
that
is
was
that
his
Sherry wanted to bring it back around. Her
Mhm.
intention was to bring Star Trek back,
Okay.
but she couldn't get control of it because Les Moonves, before leaving, gave Alex Kurtzman one of the greatest contracts ever written in Hollywood. That
And I can
they
tell you,
would
and I can
have,
tell you why. And I can tell you why. So because this is TV, right? This is my forte at the moment, right? So
Right.
Moonves was very good. He was very good at making commercial television for the average person, right? He made CBS a huge thing, right? He knew how to do that for decades, right?
hated science fiction, but he was good at what he did. It's true.
Correct. Right? Again, he understood the market there. But like everybody else, he bought into the bullshit. He bought into the bullshit of Mr. Kurtzman and that whole cast of characters around J.J. Abrams. They created a decade-long myth. Dave Lindelof, Kurtzman, all these people, this whole cast. I mean, I remember I'm rising with them as a young screenwriter, right? I have the same generation as them, right? And I watched them take off, and I was like, these guys got nothing in the tank. What are they flying on, right? And it was just hot air. I mean, it was just compressed hot air, which is eventually going to run out, right? And it did run out. But at the time, Moonves fell for the smoke and mirrors of Mr. Kurtzman, right? And gave Star Trek control to the absolutely worst possible person you could give it to in Hollywood, right? Even if he'd given it to Abrams, it wouldn't have been a disaster because I think Abrams actually cares about Star Wars, even if he's not maybe that great at it, but he cares about it. Whereas I don't think Mr. Kurtzman does. I think he saw it as a vehicle for whatever God knows what is in his mind agenda that he had, but it wasn't to make good. It made good Star Trek. I'm sorry, Star Wars a few times. It made good Star Trek. I meant yes, good Star Trek. So yeah, I don't think that was just.
I have it on good authority because I worked with one of the directors who used to be Alex Kurtzman's boss.
Okay.
He referred to kind of a lucky idiot.
That whole cast of characters, that's the whole Abrams crowd. If anyone's seen my Instagram or I actually met Mr. Abrams a few weeks ago. I was a judge at a film festival, and his father was the honored guest. So he came to, his father was a very big producer before him, and so Mr. Abrams was born into a rich producer family, right? Gerry Abrams was his father, and so he came, and I chatted briefly with JJ, took a picture with him, whatever. Perfectly nice guy, but that whole cast of characters around him, really people that basically had nothing there, and they were very good at selling their relationship to him.
Yeah, it's the whole thing that Keith and I have joked about calling them JJ acolytes.
Yeah,
you want to use the word acolyte? That's what you've got as JJ acolytes.
Yeah.
And JJ liked to refer to himself as a Spielberg Lucas filmmaker, but the fact is he understood the look without the depth of what
he didn't get
guys created.
His tragedy is this, because if you look back at Regarding Henry, his first film that he wrote when he was like 19, and again, he gave the script to his father, who was a very well-known Hollywood producer, who gave the script to Harrison Ford, who then got a movie made, right? And so it's a very.
And I love that movie, by the way. I do love that movie.
It's an intelligent movie. It has heart, it has depth, and then. Again, it was given to him too early. So when that kind of success is given to you too early, you stop building. And he started. I think he had some creativity in whatever he was doing with Carrie, that movie Felicity, that show Felicity. He had some creativity there. I think actually the turning point for him, where he decided to phone it in, was a show that I enjoyed. But if you look back at it, you realize he's phoning it in. Is Alias, because from the very pilot of Alias, he's ripping off Run Lola Run. He's not doing something new. He's literally ripping off an independent, Germanic film for your lovely Austrian girlfriend, right? An independent German film. And he's ripping it off to the costumes, to the scenes, to the action sequences. He just decided, I'm just going to rip this film off and make that the pilot of my show. He could have done something different than ripping off Run Lola Run. He had the goods for it. But the moment he fell into the trap of, I'm just going to copy other people, it forever dominated his destiny from that point on.
It really did. The last thing, in my opinion, though, that I thought was good that he did was what he helped do for Tom Cruise with Mission Impossible, and finally bringing it into a universe by fixing what they'd been doing. Because John Woo, I love John Woo, but I hated his Mission Impossible too.
It was one of two things, because I liked what he was able to at least have a hand in doing with the television series Fringe. Even though Fringe really is just...
Yeah, and I've never watched Fringe. I've never watched it. I don't know why.
It is one of the last of the really good things. And even though he and Kurtzman didn't stay very long in creative control, because they had other people that took over. That is a good show. Is it the greatest show ever made? It can be argued, but it's good. You can watch from the first episode to the final episode, and it tells a really cool, complete story that, spoilers, kind of creates a very circular sort of story to be told, which is.
I think you echoed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That was your own voice that confused you.
Yeah, but it's a show that well cast, a really well done cast, and you had Leonard Nimoy in his final major role, and the character that he got a chance to play of Bell, when you find out, plays on your nostalgia of who Leonard Nimoy is as an actor versus how really monstrous of a character that he was, and it's a good show. Good show.
Absolutely. By the way, Jonathan,
I gotta bounce.
Oh, Holly, thanks for dropping.
Holly, take care of yourself, my man. Good
Love
luck,
you, brother.
Just want to back up my dude, KP. Listen to him.
Hermano, everyone ever subscribe to Latino Slant, where he has the most beautiful Latina women on all the time, right? Unlike the schlong fest.
Okay, more criticism. Thanks a lot, Cameron.
Yeah.
Oh, your lovely lady took off. She got fed up, right? She left.
No, I wanted to let you know she is very upset right now. StreamYard failed for her in Austria, and she can't get back on the show.
I gotta bounce.
See you, Polly.
Yeah.
Take care. God
Love
bless,
you guys.
brother.
Peace.
Love you too, man.
But on the subject of that, it's like, does Quentin Tarantino describe himself as De Palmian as a creator? No. If you're a good creator, people refer to your films as your name-esque.
Correct. That's very right.
As much as I love him, I've never talked to you about this, Cameron. I'm going to tell you my big criticism of Quentin Tarantino. The guy doesn't understand that dialogue is supposed to be there to push the story forward, and he forgets that. And he just writes this snappy, great dialogue. But I'm sitting there going, anybody could be saying this. It has nothing to do with the story of what's supposed to be happening here. He doesn't know how to write a second act. It frustrates me. But what I do love is that his last film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, actually worked for me because everything that he's bad at, he did correctly this time in a way that was enjoyable. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, finally, even though it's still fucked up what he's doing structurally, it works. And I love it. Adios, mi amigo. We love Paulie, man. He's just such a great dude. But I enjoy Quentin Tarantino's movies, but I'm sitting there going, this guy has not done anything original except for Inglourious Bastards, because it was supposed to be a remake, and he actually went and wrote an original story for what was supposed to be a remake. And I enjoyed it. It was full of shit. It was crazy, wackadoodle, but it had 4 major scenes in that movie that blew me away. I'm serious. The bar scene in particular. You've seen it, right, Cameron?
Yeah. And so no, he's very. I'm actually working with Lawrence Bender, who was his partner for most of
his partner for years.
Discovered him on Reservoir Dogs, and I've heard the actual story from his mouth of how he found him and all that. So yeah, no, I mean, and so Inglourious Basterds, I think it was one of their last collaborations because now they're both doing their own thing separately. But yeah, I think they got the Oscar nomination together on that. So yeah.
Oh, I agree with you. Mike loves cats. Favreau and Cruz would be awesome. Partnership between those two.
Yeah, and again,
I got to tell you, Tarantino there's one movie in particular he's ripped off his entire career. Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Opening scene in Inglourious Bastards is the same fucking opening scene in Good, Bad, and the Ugly. Really uncomfortable dinner scene that ends in gunfire.
He's never done anything really original, brother. But then again, Hitchcock said it best. There hasn't been an original story since the Holy Bible.
Yeah.
Everything was pretty much written in there.
And that's okay. That's okay. The pivotal thing is, are you fulfilling your audience? That's all. It's
are you telling it in an original way too? That's the other thing. Hitchcock
there's infinite ways to retell the story. Yeah. It's the hero's journey, right? There's infinite ways to tell that, and that's why. But the thing is this: if you're not fulfilling your audience, like when I watched The Last Jedi, I'm watching this. cringing in the seats, right? And then by the end of it, I'm like, please God, somebody shoot me in the head. I can't watch. Oh my God, there's another half hour, another hour of this thing. I mean, that's not the reaction you want. So clearly something is wrong in your story structure if that's the reaction you're getting.
Yeah, and I can't argue with that. That's true.
Jonathan
writes, lucky idiot describes the current White House occupier. We keep politics out of this show, buddy, but I appreciate the comment and thank you for the $1.99 super chat. Martin, can you give that man a video? Are you even here, Martin? Did you quit?
Yes. I'm still here.
Is it siesta time in Mexico?
No. I'll run this video because it described the current situation.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I love that movie. Cameron, did you ever see him on Saturday Night Live?
No, I have not. I don't think I have.
That actor, I forget his name right now. Just, but I love him as an actor. Him and Jimmy Stewart were great. John Wayne,
Strother Martin.
He would steal scenes, and I remember, in true story, Jimmy Stewart was working with him a TV show, and in the scene, Strother Martin had a piece of string and a pencil, and Jimmy Stewart turned to the director and he's like, "I'll do the scene with him if he's got a pencil or the string." But if he's got both, nobody's going to even notice that I'm in the scene. Take one of them away from him because he's a scene sitter. Hey, Chris. How you doing, buddy?
Greetings. I was listening in and I couldn't help
welcome
in on this conversation.
Cameron, were you where he won down in Texas for his film?
No. Which festival we're talking about?
It was the
Film Threat Award.
Film Threat Award.
Won
Oh,
Best
wonderful.
Indie Horror Movie.
Oh, good for you. I'm a huge horror fan, so I want to hear more about it. But actually, I need to take a 5-minute break because I'm going to give you a nice view here because now the sun is setting and I actually have to
look how beautiful it is.
My
I can outdo that view. Just saying.
You got to do your prayers.
Enjoy my view, and I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Okay, go do your prayers, and we'll talk amongst ourselves, my friend. Chris, get that bicep down there, baby. Sexy.
I would prefer if the creatives in Hollywood spent more time learning story structure instead of trying to subvert it, because they don't even fucking learn it before they are subverting everything.
Have you checked out the latest from Film Threat, the letter from the writer's room, now that they're doing those diversity surveys? And
no, that whole article, I mean,
I will not answer questions when I get those in a poll that I have to take, like for medical. I will not fill those things in. I'm like, no, I'm not playing this game. Fuck you.
Yeah, well,
it's racism disguised as manners.
Oh, Anima, hello.
She got kicked off of StreamYard and it won't let her back on. So she's
heard.
really upset.
Yeah, Shinosky, to speak to your point, though, the particular writer who did the screenshots of that and wrote an article anonymously for Film Threat. The thing that really stuck out for me was that they are now sitting down in the writer's room and going, what message can we put into this? What lesson can we teach the audience, rather than discussing what's a good story, because they don't really, they haven't been mentored, because they are, they've just been stuck there to fill the writer's room. So they don't actually have any idea of what a good story is. And ultimately, I think this is something that I've really kind of been thinking for a while. It's, I have a particular saying, it's power doesn't corrupt, power attracts corrupt people. And Hollywood has kind of become the one ring of power. Because now, because so many activists know that politics is downstream from culture, this is a deliberate, very deliberate attempt to destroy culture from where it starts, which is our stories. These people are being inserted in writers' rooms not to actually give any lessons, but simply because they are incompetent, and the people that want to destroy our stories know this, and they know that nothing but destruction can come of it. And that's evident in, what we're seeing with Disney and other places like that. And now it's all collapsing. Pixar just announced they're going to be laying off a bunch of people. This is honestly, I hate to say it, but I feel like Hollywood is the one ring. It's probably better to cast it into the fire and then see where we go from there than to try and take it back. Because even if we do
it's
take it back,
too bad when you say this, and I got to bring up what Dino De Laurentiis tried to do, turning North Carolina into the new Hollywood to get away from Hollywood. And we need something like that now.
Yeah, well, I think, it may not even be the answer may not be centralization. I mean, right now, I think I've shown you a few samples and there's more to show, but, between AI, my learning AI and Unreal Engine and having a green screen in my garage, I am, slow going because it's just me. And every once in a while, someone else will come along to help. But I'm creating things for my animation that are going to be competitive to what you see with, it might not be top quality, but it'll be competitive in the sense that I'm creating new things that I've never seen on screen before, because these technologies kind of change the medium in a way that is fascinating. And I think it's kind of have the same impact as, at some point, if not me, somebody's going to do a movie that's going to have the same impact as Toy Story did, where everyone stops and goes, wait a minute, you can do a whole movie like this? And I think whoever does that is going to be outside of Hollywood, because Hollywood has already clamped down all these restrictions. And this is something that Chris Gore says on his channels. Like, yeah, the unions are saying, you can't use AI for this, that, and the other. You can't do this. You have to have this many people in the writer's room. You have to this many people on set. Indie filmmakers don't have any of those restrictions, and they have access to very powerful technology. Like I said, Unreal Engine, Stable Diffusion. If you follow AI news, it's incredible what's coming out, the tools that are coming out. And you look at it and you go, okay, yeah, it looks like AI and it has that look. But it's the creative people who are going to take that technology and go like, okay, instead of trying to just make the AI do everything, how do I do my thing? And then have AI fill in the gaps in a way that is going to enable them to compete on that level with the Hollywood movies. I think once
Here's
those
the thing, Chris, though, the issue is more so, no, they don't want it in their particular field. But if you look at what they're doing, like case in point, when was SAG or whatnot, they were posting about how, they use AI generate images. You know why? Because that's not part of their industry. So they don't give two shits. So
go ahead, Keith. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, this follows exactly what George Lucas and James Cameron were talking about in the late 90s. That ultimately what you were going to have is that those who were outside of the regular Hollywood structure would have the power to create things that rivaled and probably surpassed many of the things that the studios are doing. That you would be able to have access to things that would allow you, where you are, to eventually create things that would rival what you are able to see in big budget features. And that the only difference, that the only thing that was really going to matter in the future is the quality of the writing that you have.
Yeah, and I think it goes beyond just the quality of the writing, because
yes,
to me, whenever I have these conversations, people always bring that up. It doesn't matter what you do. If you don't have a good script, you're in trouble. To me, that's almost like the obvious talking point. It doesn't even need to be said.
Yes.
I think it goes beyond the fact. I think, it's like, I'll give you an example. A certain somebody, who I don't know wishes to be named or not, yesterday sent me a little something that they put together that looked outstanding. I was really impressed by it. And I was looking at the quality of the image. and I could recognize just, the kind of equipment that shot this image, and I was thinking to myself, here's a great example. I have seen so many people with access to the same equipment produce just, garbage. And this particular person who, if they don't mind me naming them, they can say, what's that?
Go ahead.
It was Shinosky. And I'll just say it right now because I didn't get a chance to say this to you before. I was very impressed because you were doing things with the camera that showed me that you really love how the medium of film tells a story. And that's something that I just don't see many people doing at all. They get a camera in their hand or they get a particular computer program like Unreal Engine, and they just kind of plug it in and, aim the camera or set up the 3D models or whatever. And then they go, oh, that's cool. And then they move on and you go, all right, but you haven't really shown me why you love this medium. I saw that.
Real quick though, that I was producer and I wrote it, but my director and the DP we had deserve the credit for the look.
But you wanted to work with them.
True.
You saw their work before. So
true,
obviously,
but I want to always make sure people get the appropriate credit for what they do.
I think that's a very wise thing. Same thing with my filmmaking. I picked people that I could see were really enthusiastic and passionate about what they do, from the acting to the photography. But as a producer, as someone who writes and produces, knows what they want their story to be, you still had a hand in that. So don't, you can give the credit, but don't deny yourself credit.
Oh yeah. As I said, I wrote and produced. The important thing to me is that ultimately that you try to find, at least my experience with producer, you try to find the people that are hopefully going to give a shit and try to give you a good job. And then you kind of try to get out of the way. At least that's my theorem on it.
What impressed me about it, though, just kind of going back to the quality of what you showed me, I saw a team that was really going like, okay, this is what film as a store of video, because it's digital now, but I'll just say film is the shorthand. Here's what film can do as a medium that no other medium can do. And then when it comes to AI, and there's a super chat here that says, I think the auteur theory will become the main way AI filmmakers will be appreciated artistically. Sir Clive.
Which I want to say thank you to them real quick. Sir
Yeah.
Clive Calculator with the $4.99 British pounds sterling. Thank you very much for the super chat, sir. For you, you get this fun little video.
My whole thing with all this is that I don't entirely agree that film should necessarily be considered an authorial medium. I think that like books you can definitely say are, but film by its very nature is collaborative. So there's what I had in mind when I was writing, and I have a full script and everything else. I have my mind of how everything's going to look. But as it goes along, people get cast. The director is going to have their own thing. The DP is going to have their own thing. And there's things that are in there that are definitely exactly what I had in mind. And there's things that came from them that I had no invention of at all. And film is this interesting middle ground between all that.
Yeah, I will kind of be devil's advocate on that and say that the director, whoever takes the helm, has to recognize the individual talents within their team and guide them towards a singular vision. So I will kind of, we could go back and forth on that. My main point, though, is I think that, I'm very excited about using AI, and I've gone into it hard. I've got to tell you, like, I really...
Were you hard when you went into it?
I hate you, Gerry.
Phrasing.
I just want you to know that I hate you so much.
Phrasing.
So
crazy.
I'm just gonna ignore that, okay? Because
We need some lovely Austrian woman back here to keep this guy under control. Keith can't do it.
I will lift my weights for her one more time. So.
Yeah, she told you to keep lifting. She loves it when you do that.
I will identify as an Austrian woman to go, Gerry, shut up.
So, Cameron, I have to say, by the way, I'm very honored to be on a same live stream as you. I actually, I believe in being a business person as well as an artist, and your particular streams, especially with Doomcock, I pay very close attention to them, and I won't say I make business decisions based solely on them, but the information you give, along with other live streamers who also convey this information, have really been informative to me and have guided me in my journey as a filmmaker.
I'm very flattered, and you're winning awards, so that speaks for itself. So
I should have brought the award here to do another flex, but it's in the other room right now. I'm technically
the
still
award. I want the Film Threat mug, man. Show me the Film Threat mug.
Hold on a second. Hold on.
We got to wrap up here, guys. So make it quick.
Okay. Well, here's the Film Threat mug. I just want to say this though, just kind of the reason that I've gone so hard into AI is because it's a new medium. Just like I was very excited about digital cameras when they started to come along, because it's not just another tool in the respect of like, oh, okay, this is a digital camera versus a film camera. They have their look, they have their quirks, they have their little things that when you put what you have into them, they give you something back, and AI is no exception. So working on Escape from Planet Omega 12 and creating this AI generated animation where I get to focus on weird little quirky things like a campfire. Suddenly AI is giving me like campfires that you've never seen before. And I'll just stop there because I could spend hours talking about this, but I'm so excited about this. And again, the fact that Hollywood is, like I said, that one ring that I feel needs to be cast into the fire before we can move on with creating.
Yeah, he made that reference, Cameron, while you were gone.
It's interesting, like synchronicity of that, because the synchronicity of that, because I refer to on my Patreon what apparently got me kicked off of Twitter for referring it. I referred to Ms. Kathleen Kennedy as the Eye of Sauron because I've been told from reliable sources that's how Jon Favreau and his team have referred to her privately, and we got to be careful what we say because Eye of Sauron is watching, right? So
I hope they bring you back to Twitter because I miss you on there, dude.
I posted that once. I called it the Eye of Sauron. I was booted off that day. So
another synchronicity, Cameron. Wait, what do you think my icon is?
For sure.
That's right. Yours is the old illustration from the book.
So Christopher, you were saying.
Well, the reason that I referred to
Cameron. Oh, I'm sorry, Chris. I wanted to get into this because we got to wrap up. Before we end the show today, Cameron, any thoughts on where we're headed right now with Hollywood? Because I do believe we're seeing a reset. It's been going on slowly for the past 2 years, and I think we're going to finally see it. But what do you think?
Well, before I answer that, I'm just going to let Christopher and anyone else know, or at least anyone in the panel. I've thrown my email into the private chat. So anyone who wants to reach out to me, continue conversations, it's in the private chat. You can reach out to me. So with regard to that, it's yeah, I mean, I think we're at an inflection point. I think we've been building towards an inflection point for quite some time. I think it's a confluence of events that have come together. The most important trigger is Nelson Peltz is serious about removing or at least getting himself onto the board and finding out what's been going on there. And that's a threat to not just Disney itself, but to the old club system of how the Hollywood.
Especially if he gets like Perlmutter, right?
Yeah, it's a Perlmutter. If just anybody sees those books and maybe looks into FTX and other things that I've hinted at or not hinted at, I've said broadly that there's something wrong on the books at Disney, which suggests there might be something wrong on other books on other studios, right? So we're at an inflection point where I think from a historical perspective, I think all the world's institutions are collapsing. I think government institutions are collapsing, economic institutions are collapsing, military institutions are collapsing, and I think Hollywood institutions are collapsing. And that's the beginning of a new period. It doesn't mean the end. The World War I was the collapse of one system, the beginning of another. We are now at the end of the World War I system. It's the same time as the Federal Reserve. We're living at the end of the World War I system, right? And so yes, we are it's a change that's bigger than any person. And so I don't think it can be stopped. I think you can, Jon Favreau can quit Lucasfilm tomorrow and it won't be stopped. right? These events are much bigger than any one person. We are at an epical change, and so I think that's for the benefit for everyone. The last thing I'll say is I've been saying this now for a few years, for a couple of years. Even I've been saying this in the worst moments of the woke stuff of the last 10 years, that we are on the verge of the greatest creative work in filmmaking since really since the silent films. I think we are at a time where we're gonna, it'll be like the 70s when you have an explosion of new artists who are breaking free. As the old studio system died in the 70s, and Steven Spielberg and Coppola and others were born in it. Lucas was born in it. Now the next generation of those people is coming, and they may come from unusual backgrounds. They may not come from a traditional filmmaking background. They may come through AI. They may come through ways that Christopher's talking about, but they're coming and they will enter the film. I don't think big movies are going anywhere. I mean,
well, this is something else that I wanted to ask you before we go is what we're seeing is a transitional change in how studios work, that they're going to be more focused as we move forward as distribution only and not with producing movies. You think that too?
It depends on the economics of each individual studio, and they're all parts of conglomerates that are collapsing. And who knows whether Warner Brothers will be broken up again in the next 2 years. Whether he's going to sell off parts of it. He's already talk of that. So I think each studio's Paramount is a different situation than Disney, then is a different situation than Warner Brothers, then is Universal, right? So each of them has their own economics that they have to deal with. Some will focus more on distribution, others will focus on production. I think a place like Disney has to go back to production, making good stuff, right? I just think that's Disney's brand, is to create. That was Walt Disney's vision, right? And I think that's what's coming. I think inevitably things go back to what they're supposed to be. It's just a painful process.
And painful it has been, especially for fans. Kamran, I want to thank you for being here, my friend. It's so good to see you again. We're so glad you're here. Chris, thanks for dropping in, buddy. It was really nice of you. Shinatsky, John, Keith, thanks for being here, buddy. I have so much trouble doing these shows without you, man, and I deeply appreciate it when you're able to make it to the show. Again, in the private chat, Kamran gave you guys his email if you want to reach out, especially Chris. I also want to thank all of our viewers here today that have been in the chat. Tim has been here, Gap After Dark, Penny, Surgeon MD, Anima Confusa, the love of my life, D. Bud Martin, Mrs. A, the Peter Venkman fan site, Mr. Grant Gregory, Parrot Head, one of the funniest dudes around, Scribe Light, a good writer friend of mine. I love this guy. E. Clay Thomason, Monkey Jeebus was here, Connie Cleary, Shadow Storyteller, Andy Morrow, Warachi, Courtney's Fellowship of Oddballs, Real Wag Nation Gaming, Six was here. We appreciate you being here, Six, when you help in the chat. Read by Nature, Lady V Elements, Rock Lee, Daryl Brewer, Brandon the Anime Guy, Jedi Bill, Adnan, God, I have trouble with some of these names. Adnan Kabir was here. I do believe that's from your Patreon. Mariella Newworth, Lord Trennan was here. Snorter Poopus Cuber, War Monkey. It was a House of Monkeys today. We had Monkey Jeeves and War Monkey. J.W. Choi, Dragon Ruse, Socks Bulletins, Shinatsky, Our Muslim Uncle, Awesome One, Cam's Crash Courses, Latino Slant, and Kiss My W was here. I want to thank everybody for being here today.
And
This
Peter
is a fun
Bacon's fan
show.
site.
Who?
Peter
sorry, what?
Bacon's fan site. You missed him.
No, I said that one. It's
Oh, you
Vickman's
did?
Girl.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Good
Vickman's
names
Girl.
all around, though.
Just absolute. We share one of the best audiences with Midnight's Edge, Culture Casino, Valiant Renegade. They all are, circle around, and we just appreciate all you guys. Always a great chat. Kamran, thanks so much for being here, brother. It's so good to see you.
I'd love to come back.
One last thing before you go.
I may do it every week, but I'd love to come back on again. So just drop me a
Any
message.
news on your TV series? Any news on your TV series?
Well, I will only say this. I've been working on a TV series for quite some time. People don't understand. Movies take time, TV's time. This project has been developed for 2 years. I sold it to a studio 3 years ago, sold it to a network 2 years ago, and here we are still developing the project. But it survived the strike, which a lot of shows on this network did not survive. A lot of shows were canceled. A lot of shows in development were canceled. And the good news I got after the strike, like, okay, we have more notes on the pilot in episode 2. So that's what I've been working on over Christmas. Hopefully I'm praying I can come on this channel and say, show's been greenlit. Here's the title. Here's the concept. Here's the network. Here's when it's premiering. God will come back here and do that.
We got to have you back, Cameron, and I don't want it to be another year. Also, we still have some more names. Bush McFadden. If you want to get some really good 70s Bush, it's Bush McFadden because he's got the big Bush. Zax, my buddy Kyle. Midnight's Edge Espanol. Sir Clive Calculator. Mr. John Clark. Vinzinger, a.k.a. El Taku, a.k.a. the Weed Pillar. What a long name. Mike Loves Cats. Of course, Polly. Christopher Moonlight Productions, and Jonathan G94. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. We're going to play our little outro, and I hope everybody has a wonderful Friday. Please be safe over the weekend, and God bless. This is the key to our show, the outro. Yeah. Life hack. Anybody's heard about the bird?